Your teenage child has been diagnosed with functional neurological disorder, short for FND, and the question is your child using assistive devices such as walker, wheelchair, crutches, sling, medical bracelet, or service dog, or all of the above and then some? If so, keep watching. And if you're one of those families who are thinking about getting these devices, keep watching. Hi, Dr. Lee here. I'm a pediatric health psychologist and chronic pain survivor myself. So I'm just going to cut to the chase. Today's video is really about FND and assistive devices. My conclusion, overarching general recommendation is don't use it. Let me walk you through why that is the case and then when to think about using these assistive devices on a short-term basis. So keep watching. First of all, what is FND? I will probably keep educating all of you until the day I die, probably, unless the FND becomes such a mainstream thing that everybody knows what it is, like everybody kind of knows what depression is, everybody kind of knows what cancer is, kind of thing, right? So that is my goal, to really increase awareness of what FND is. So hopefully I don't have to keep explaining what it is, but until then, that is my mission, okay? So back to what is FND. FND is literally a real diagnosis. Your child is not making things up. It is a cross-wired problems between the brain and the body when your child's brain and body are structurally looking okay. Once again, your child is not faking or making things up. It is a very common diagnosis you would actually get in neurology clinics, even though you feel like you're the only one who is going through this on the planet. Trust me, I've got a lot of kids in my private practice here and also in my online program who are going through this exact thing that is called FND. And that being said, FND is not just stress or psychological. That is like a really old way of thinking. FND is a biopsychosocial phenomenon. It is not just one thing. It is all these three things combined that is impacting this FND phenomenon. Okay, so why am I saying don't use assisted devices for FND? Well, first of all, FND is a disorder of functional neurological communication, right? So think of it this way. The goal is for your child to undo this miscommunication and then reconnect in a corrective way, if that makes sense, right? So if your child is using these assisted devices, it's actually sending the wrong message, not consciously or intentionally, but sending the wrong message that your child actually needs this, and that means your child has a permanent disability. And what happens over time is that your child is starting to internalize that message that's been sent unconsciously, that this is who I am, kind of identity. Then it gets really, really challenging for that child to undo the part of identity and then recreate the new identity. So if you just started using these assisted devices, my suggestion is start removing those assisted devices even on a short-term basis. Meaning, if you can remove any of these assisted devices for like 5, 10, 15 minutes a day to begin with, that would be amazing than not doing it at all. If you're thinking about getting an assisted device, then I would say hold that thought and then really think about why you are needing this. Which leads to the next part about when it's actually kind of making sense to think about assisted devices. Well, I'm thinking about like 2 or 3 different scenarios here. So one is really about the activities, overarching thing, but one is really going back to school. So let's just say that your child is not going to school for weeks and months and things like that, and kind of like a bed rest or start staying home and not doing anything, right? And then if your child's problem of the FND is, let's say, walking, and then your child is needing a wheelchair to get by. So the question is, what is the priority? Can your child actually start going to school even on a wheelchair tomorrow, rather than hoping your child's FND gets better, therefore your child can get back to school after your child gets better? Then I would say use the wheelchair, but start going to school, right? That's much, much better, because then your child's moving up towards the resolution of FND one step closer, even though your child is using the wheelchair. The tricky part is if you are not doing any treatment or anything to get better, then you are likely to be stuck, because then your child or you wouldn't know any other way to get back to the normal life without using a wheelchair, right? And so this is really tricky, but my suggestion is that on a temporary basis, when I say temporarily, it's more like a week at a time, or a few days at a time, or one day at a time kind of thing. So if using an assistive device is going to kick off to increase the functioning level for this child, then I would say consider using that. But don't think that would be the permanent solution, okay? The other thing is, I had this family in the past whose school was so freaked out about FND, and every time this child had an FND episode, then school would call 911 every single time. I mean, can you imagine the medical bill that this family had to absorb because the school just kept calling 911, even though the family was trying to educate the school, don't do it, right? Which, by the way, for FND, don't call 911. Not good, okay? This is actually really a perpetuating factor, so don't do it. But anyway, so what family came up was that whenever the EMT comes, the medical team comes in, then there was a medical bracelet or medical ID saying, do not take me to ER. Then the EMT knew, oh, okay, well, what's going on here? Sort of stopped the process of immediately automatically taking this child to the ER, right? So that is where they started having. However, this family knew this was a temporary thing because they couldn't just rely on this one ID or bracelet to solve the problem, right? So in a situation like that, on a temporary basis, that is something you can consider using. However, I would not recommend using that for more than like weeks at a time, because then after 3 to 4 weeks of using any device consecutively or consistently, then you and your child are starting to think that this is something that your child needs for a long, long time, which doesn't really help to overcome FND. The other scenario I can think about is kind of related to this functioning level. Let's just say that your child wants to go to a concert or go to a game with her friends, right? Because it's been so long and she's been looking forward to it and things like that. And she is needing some sort of assistive device just in case she gets super tired or she's about to be having episodes, so she can do something about it to either prevent or minimize the impact. Then the question is, would you rather go with some sort of safety net as an assistive device and have fun, or just forget going out altogether and then just staying home feeling super discouraged? Then I would say, if it's worth it, all you need is an assistive device to go out there so you can have fun and you feel happy and all of that and feel like normal again. Then I would say, okay, occasionally, sure, but I wouldn't necessarily rely on that from the beginning or think of that as a first option, right? So what could be the first option instead? Well, things like using autonomic nervous system regulation strategies, to begin with, and then getting to know more about the warning signs so they can do something about it before the episode starts. I wouldn't necessarily want you to think black and white here. Flexibility is the name of the game. Of course, in certain situations, you kind of have to use this assistive device. Let's say you're going to Disneyland, and then your child's going to be super tired by the end of the day or even midday. Would you consider like reserving a wheelchair just in case? Sure, why not? You know what I mean? Unless you're going to Disneyland every single day, for that reason, then I would say I would rather you have fun, and have the backup, right? So just be thinking about the flexibility part, but generally speaking, if you want to be done with FND, the overarching suggestion is stop using it. Now, FND, as I said, is a real diagnosis and it can be very debilitating. However, with the right approach, it can be resolved. So don't give up the hope. And on that note, check out the description box below for tons and tons of resources, including handouts, other videos, websites for providers, and what to do, where to go next, all of that stuff. And I have this amazing interview video that I had with one of the students from my online program, Teen FND Academy, And I really want you to hear from her directly, not what I say, but what she says, her experience of what it's like to have an FND, and then how she overcame the FND so she is back to her normal life. So go check it out. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.